What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Accelerate Your Life podcast. We have a fun guest episode for you guys today. Megan, what's up?
Hello.
I'm super excited to have you here. Actually, have you back. I think you are the first repeat
Yeah, I
guest now that I think about it.
feel so honored.
Welcome back to the pod, everyone. We've got Coach Megan with us today. She is the head coach of Excelerate Athletics and basically my right-hand woman. She's also a registered dietitian. Man, I just didn't even have all of your credentials up here. Let's list them off. Registered dietitian, certified leap therapist. Let's see if I can do this. Hold on. Pre-postnatal.
Mhm.
All right. Tell me what else.
Hormone and gut certifications in there. We are working on some postpartum core rehabilitation certifications currently. And then I'm also a certified lactation consultant, which is fun because it is National Breastfeeding Month. So that's
Oh,
also a fun little thing
that's
to
a
throw.
fun fact. I didn't know
Yes.
that. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yes, a woman of many talents, if you guys don't notice, and that's why she is the head coach of EA and no longer me because she is much more well-rounded than me. But if you heard one of her things in there is being the hormone and gut specialist, and today's episode is going to be all focused on gut health. We're gonna get to hear from her, kind of her takes, her hot takes, or maybe not so hot takes on some of the things that I feel like we hear in gut health just being such a trendy subject now, and what's actually worth it, what's not worth it, what's worth your money, what's not worth it, what's BS, what isn't. I'm going to get Megan's opinion on all of that stuff. But before we dive in, I was just trying to think of what fun little opening question I wanted to ask her. Because if you guys have been listening for a while, you know I always ask guests, what's one thing you love about life right now? Which I asked her last time, though it might have changed. So actually, while we're here, what is one thing you love about life right now, Megan? That's not what my main question is going to be. I got another one, but let's hear it.
Honestly, one thing I love about life right now. So Brew is at the age, of course, it's a mom thing, but Brew's at the age where we can start signing up from sports because he's 3, he'll be 4 in October. So currently for September, he is doing swim lessons, soccer, and playing football. So we
Oh
are like
gosh.
diving into it full force, and I'm super excited because he's such an athletic go 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 kid, and I think sports are going to be so so good for him. And I know for me, my husband played D1 football, so
Let's
it's like sports
go.
are a really big thing in our house. And so we're really excited to just watch him like explore whatever he likes to do and to get him into group sports.
You guys dove real headfirst right into that. Goodbye to your like evening nights. I know you're gonna be at the flag football field.
Luckily, everything's only like on Saturday for like
Okay.
30 minutes. It's like sports, but like
I
not
guess
actually
that's true. Yeah,
sports.
3.5-year-olds. I guess your attention span is for that is about 30
Chaos.
minutes. Yeah. Oh, I'm interested I would die to see 3-year-old flag football. That's gonna be
It's
so
gonna, I will trust me, you will see it on the gram because I'm
let's see it.
very excited for it.
Okay, second question. What is your go-to coffee order?
Oh, I am a mocha cold brew queen through and through. That is my go-to coffee order.
Okay.
Solidly no cold foam unless I'm feeling really frisky that day, but I am literally just straight cold brew mocha. That is it.
Okay. Wait, do you order that from like Starbucks? Like, you just get mocha
I do
syrup in the
anyway.
cold brew?
I literally just put mocha syrup in cold
Okay,
brew.
I'm
I'll
trying
order it
this
anywhere, and
probably
it's so
tomorrow.
good.
That sounds so good. I'm trying this probably tomorrow. Okay. We're gonna get into some point kind of even your thoughts on like how caffeine, coffee, and gut health. Like I'm sure that will be in here. But if you guys already hear, Megan is obviously a coffee drinker. So, that's +1 for coffee, +1 for us coffee heads and our gut health, or we'll find out, I guess. But okay, well, let's dive in. So really the first thing I even want to talk about to kind of set the tone for the rest of this podcast is acknowledge, I think, the fact that like gut health and taking care of your gut and like fixing my gut and healing my gut, like these have just become such buzzword trendy things. And I hesitate to use the word trendy because I think sometimes trendy can have a little bit of a negative connotation of like it being overused and has become like over popular for not a good reason. And obviously us being health enthusiasts and health coaches, we believe there is some merit in gut health, but I kind of want to uncover in this podcast episode, like how much and what parts of those are really true. So, why do you think that gut health has all of a sudden become such a trendy thing? And do you feel like that hype is warranted? Or am I wrong? Like, has it always been a trendy thing? Like, what's kind of your take on that?
I think it's becoming trendy because, unfortunately, because of all of one, we are living in kind of influencer culture right now. And if you scroll on TikTok, you scroll on Instagram, you see certain supplements come up over and over again promoting gut health. Certain ones that start with a B, there's certain colostrum ones. There's a whole ton of other ones right now that are coming up that have, I think that is some of the merit where hey, there are things out here that, hey, they're going to support my gut, even though no one knows what that means. And I think this is even back when, heck, when I was in school 10 years ago, where the prebiotics, the probiotics really started becoming more popular in supplementation brands. And I think supplements did drive a lot of the gut health initiative, but on the flip side of that, we are seeing things like colon cancer in younger individuals as well. So I think there is some give and take of both. But I also think are a lot of people dealing with some chronic bloating, some chronic constipation, some looser bowels. I think people are 100%, but a lot of people like the quick fix of the supplement and saying that's all we need to do instead of really diving into, okay, what are some things we can do first that actually are probably more of the root cause versus just diving into, hey, this supplement's going to fix me kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think like there has been such I mean, we all see it, a big focus on supplements and all like it just with paid advertising becoming a huge thing. And you see all these things pop up and supplements have always, I think, been a very like easy way to push the health and fitness agenda from a monetary standpoint.
Mhm.
But something I like have thought about so often with a lot of the health concerns that we have pop up and it like just in I mean a lot of things in the world today, but it's just like has this always been a problem and we're just now starting to like learn that it's a problem because we have maybe more technology or are things like, you know, gut health issues, IBS, like all the people with chronic gut problems, or are they now just becoming existent and like never were before? It's like how were these things not problems before, you know what I mean? So what's your opinion on like what degree you feel like have always been a problem and now it's just becoming popular to talk about it? And then what percent do you feel like this wasn't a problem and how our current world has created it to be more of a problem? If that makes
I
sense.
think it's definitely some of both. So one of the things is, and this is, I can't remember what study I read on it, but this was back, I worked in pediatrics, obviously, before I did a yay. The most fruits and vegetables most humans ever eat in their lives is between the ages of 2 and 5. And
Interesting.
for most people, guess what? Fiber is in our fruits and vegetables. And as we get older, and luckily we have preschool have requirements in food service, just in middle school, elementary school, high school. They all have requirements of what they need to serve. They need to serve X amount of different kinds of fruits and vegetables. They need to serve per week to make their requirements to get their funding. But we see it, and just being a mom myself, we always make sure we have fruits and vegetables in our house now, more so than we probably did before. Obviously, I'm a dietitian, but my husband doesn't eat any really fruits or vegetables. I mean, he eats a little bit now that I
Sorry,
cook them.
Caleb, we're throwing you under the bus.
Oh, 100%. He's a picky eater, as I like to say, where he doesn't eat a ton of fruits and vegetables. So I think that really it's more of the decrease in fiber that we are seeing just in general population
Mhm.
that can be more promoting some of those gut health issues, along with increase in stress. Our stress has gotten worse, and that is proven over and over again over the past 20 years. So between stress, between decreasing fiber, between decreasing polyphenols, which are in those fruits and vegetables, all those extra additives that are have those cancer fighting benefits that give us those vitamins and nutrients and minerals and everything like that. Those kind of things I think all also contributed to the decline. Same thing with, again, not saying artificial sweeteners are bad. If you know me, I drink Diet Coke. It's Diet Coke is my drink, but not increasing artificial sweeteners and things, it can be a huge trigger for people. So I think it is definitely a combination of decreasing diet quality, along with there is some increasing research and more open-minded GI specialists that go in, just don't throw Miralax on something and call it a
Yeah.
day. Because I mean, and trust me, I do have some clients right now where we're trying to work through some stuff, and the GI doctor's not being super helpful with testing for SIBO or getting a stool sample or everything like that. Like, oh, just do Miralax, it'll be fine. And that's kind of frustrating. But overall, I do think it's a combination of both decreasing diet, decreasing fiber across the board, along with new science technology
Yeah.
too.
An increase in awareness. So do you feel like this boom of maybe the influencer culture and it being talked about a lot more by influencers, by people like us, by coaches, by like do you think it has been overall beneficial to the movement, the cause, so to speak, of awareness around gut health?
That is a great question. Yes and no.
Okay.
Because I think there are tons, and I follow a ton. There's some really great dietitians and coaches on TikTok. There really is. And I follow a good bit of them because I really do enjoy their content. But there's also some people who promote a supplement who have no business in the health and fitness space. And that's it's not the most warranted. Like that's my kind of concern with it. We're not calling out a certain supplement, but Bloom Greens is a huge one that you see it all the time. Like those ones for me are more concerning because it's a greens powder. They're like, oh, it helps with gut health and da 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 da. Da. And I'm like, you're not in the space. And again, this is the thing with just supplements in general. They're not FDA regulated. They don't have to put whatever's in them. They say there's in them. They just don't. So it's yes and no. I think there are good aspects of it, and I think there are not as good aspects of it. And if they don't go into the education of, hey, but I'm also doing XYZ, a supplement 99% of the time is not going to fix the issue. Unless it's a very targeted supplement, we're dealing with some kind of H. pylori, whatever it is. If it's a targeted supplement, that makes sense. But if it's just a generalized supplement, it's not going to fix the issue 99% of the time.
Okay, so this kind of brings me then to a part that I definitely wanted to cover on this episode is getting your take on things that you have heard and seen that have become popular, that become trendy when it comes to gut health. That let's start with first that you think are BS. And so it sounds like maybe some more of these just generic supplements, like that's one of them. But and we can go down a list but let's start with like what first comes to mind. Yeah, what's something that, and this doesn't just have to be supplements either. Like maybe it's the idea of, I think it's become really popular to cut out dairy for your gut health, or it's become
Mhm.
popular to cut out gluten. And I have some of my opinions on which of these are, warranted and it's always hard, right? Because for some of these it
Oh,
depends.
it
Like
works.
for
I
some
have
it
a
really
client
is.
for some of my I
Right.
have a client right now who has psoriasis and he cuts out dairy and gluten and he feels a million times
Yeah.
better. So guess what? We try to avoid dairy and
Right. Right.
gluten.
Right. But okay, well, what first comes to mind for you? What are some things that you've seen become
Oh,
popular, ideas, supplements, whatever, for gut health purposes that you think are just BS and make you roll your eyes?
so one, and if you talked to Megan 10 years ago, I was all for a generalized prebiotic and a probiotic. I was all for that. 10 years ago, that Megan would. Now, a more educated Megan, and I am one of those people where nutrition is a growing and evolving field,
Mhm.
and that is why I love it so much. So, probiotics, more specifically, a generalized probiotic is not good for most people because it does not necessarily help you. It can technically it can promote SIBO. It can promote bacterial overgrowth. There is obviously, I love targeted probiotics. So if you have chronic constipation, chronic diarrhea, other, like if you're taking a supplement that, like you're taking what antibiotic and then we're doing some replacement stuff, like there are places for them. But a general everyday probiotic is one of those things where I say, okay, let's stop. Because I had a client who literally just 2 weeks ago, she started with me. And she was taking live culture probiotics. She was taking a regular probiotic. She was taking, I don't even know how many billions of little fungi, as I like to say. And I told her, just stop taking them. Your bloating will go away. She did. She felt better. So the overpopulation of bacteria is a thing. And also I like to say targeted, and this is how I call it to my clients as well. Probiotic strains are like dogs. If you have a strain that is not compatible to your goal, so let's say you have Lambo, you understand you're a dog person. What would happen to Lambo if he just was trapped in the house all day? He would tear everything up. He's an
Mhm.
active dog. You need to have a dog that matches your situation. If you had a bulldog and tried to take him on a hike, the bulldog wouldn't last. He would also crap out. So that is one of those things where I like to say, if you're dealing with constipation and you're taking a probiotic that's meant for diarrhea, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get more stopped up. Same thing in the inverse. If you're having diarrhea and you're taking a probiotic for constipation, or other thing, if you're taking a probiotic that's meant for vaginal health, because let's be real, probiotics are in vaginal health as well, that ain't going to help your gut at all, because guess what? The bacteria is not going to go
Mhm.
there. So it's one of those things where probiotics for me are the one thing where I think they have their place, but we need to be educated and we need to be targeted in them. And usprobiotic, I think.com is one of my favorite kind of resources for looking up what kind of strains are in certain probiotics and what they are used for. It's one of my favorite kind of go-to resources.
You that was usprobiotic.com.
Believe off the top of
I'm
my
gonna
head.
put it in the show notes if anybody usprobiotic.com. I'm very glad you brought this up. I had this in my notes to make sure that we brought up because this is something I really learned from you. I mean, when I recently needed one, I came to you and I was like, help me, which do I need? But again, a 5 year ago, Mallory would have just been like, oh, I need to get on a probiotic. Let me go find a good one. I know general things, which actually correct me if I'm wrong on this, but generally with most probiotics, you want something that's refrigerated so that the cultures actually stay alive. Those shelf stable ones, typically they can be spoiled, etc.
Yeah.
And I had an idea about strain, but like it was just that. Like otherwise, I didn't know, that it really needed to be targeted, and that's something you've really taught me. So I want to actually skirt away for a second from my original question. We'll get back to the other things you think are BS, but I want to spend a little bit extra time on this one because I think people don't know this. So what's your take then on like a probiotic just being a everyday supplement for someone? Is it that you think that's altogether not the best, or that's good and people should, you just need to find one that's more right for you? Help me understand that.
I think it's a mixture depending. Otherwise, my other favorite probiotic just in general, Activia. I'm just saying in general, Activia is a great probiotic. Like it
Like
has
the
it
yogurt?
like literally the yogurt. It is solid. That is one of my favorite things. If you want a general healthy probiotic, yogurt. And again, probiotics don't have to be just in supplements.
Yeah.
They can be in foods. That's why yogurt's a great one. Kefir, all
Well,
your fermented
remember, we want
foods.
foods first before supplements. I
Foods
do
first,
think you gotta, yeah.
110%. If we need a little help, then we can get probiotics. But like my number one, and I've told you this before when you've had to be on an antibiotic, was like go get some Activia. And I tell this to my clients all the time, post food poisoning on all those kind of things too, where I'm like, go get some Activia, eat 2 a day for the next 2 weeks. And that helps replenish that bacteria. Cause anytime you take an antibiotic, it wipes everything out. It doesn't have, it's like Tylenol. It doesn't have a targeted approach. It just wipes everything out. So I say that all the time where we want foods first. We want kefir and kimchi and pickles and yogurt and those kind of things are really great. And that's kind of what I recommend just generally. But a lot of my clients actually do use yogurt as like a daily, just part of their diet. And I for them, most of them, that's plenty.
Yeah.
Unless we're seriously working on a constipation or diarrhea, or we're working on some IBS issues or those kind of things. And then I'll recommend it a targeted supplement. Because if they're taking something random, I'll be like, okay, let's not do that. Let's try a different something to help with the actual issue at hand.
Yeah, so what I was gonna ask next is what is your like typical scenario in which you do then want to like emphasize somebody getting on a probiotic? Is it more so those true like you're seeing a tangible gut health issue?
Yeah, it's more of a specialized case, or especially for my clients, a big thing, and one thing that we rate whenever we're doing check-ins with clients is digestion. If we're having some, for me, it's more if the extremes of loose stool, constipation. If we're not pooping for 3 days, like that's an issue. We want to be pooping daily. Pooping daily is very, very important. One, that's also probably the reason of some of the increase in colon cancer, because people aren't pooping daily because we're not getting enough fiber and we're not drinking enough water a lot of the time as a society too. So things aren't moving along. Or if we're having the opposite, where we're having something where everything's coming out immediately. So it's kind of goes both ways, where if we're having an issue on either side of the spectrum, then I'll address it. Or if we're coming off of some kind of antibiotic, then I'll address it as well.
Okay, so we have learned probiotics important, helpful, but not a generalized supplement to just have part of your stack, so to speak, without knowing really what's right for you. Okay, back to other things. What are some other things you've seen become popular when it comes to gut health that you think are BS?
Greens
Okay,
powder. I want to
tell us more.
smash my head against the wall whenever I see greens powders, because, and this is why, and I understand the point of them. I really do. I understand the point of them, but this is why I don't love them. So half my major was food science back in the day. We did a lot of chemistry, food sciencey stuff. A lot of these supplements are made in a lab and in a petri dish. So the absorption potentially is not there whenever it comes to digesting the immune system. Some of these benefits could easily burn off in your stomach with your stomach acid. They can never make it to your small intestine or large intestine to be absorbed. Another thing would be you again with supplements, You don't know what's in them. That is always my thing with supplements. Unless it is third party tested or you have a certificate of authenticity, you do not know what's in your supplements. And that's why I'm very big on promoting brands that do have those kind of safe falls in them. And then people spend so much money on them. Or my favorite excuse for people to say that, like, oh, I'm a picky eater, I don't eat
Yeah.
vegetables, so I need a greens powder. And I'm like, but vegetables are so much more than just like
Yeah.
vegetables. I'm like, so you're missing your polyphenols, like we talked, phenols, like we talked about before. You're missing your fiber, which again, we talk
Mhm.
about this whole thing where
Yes.
fiber is so
Yes.
important in our diet. So you're missing so many things. It's not just the the extracts. And if you want fun extracts, go get you, and a lot of mushrooms are like them and that kind of thing. Go get you some mushroom coffee. I'm a mushroom coffee girl. Like that's how I get my mushrooms. Because you better believe I ain't eating mushrooms. I hate mushrooms.
Oh, no.
There's certain levels, but and I hate to talk to people like that sometimes. But I'm like, okay, we need to find. And this is how, again, when I worked in pediatrics, this is what I did with my the preschool age kids that I worked with. Hide vegetables in your food. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like you can make a pasta sauce with vegetables and then
Yeah.
hide it, or a smoothie. Like would my kid eat spinach? Absolutely not. He would not touch spinach with a 10-foot pole. But if I blend it in a smoothie, does he eat it? Absolutely every time. Doesn't
Yeah.
even notice it's there.
Yeah.
So it's those things where you can trick yourself or find vegetables you like. I don't care if you eat carrots with ranch. Eat your carrots with ranch. Because guess what? Also, carrots have vitamin A. Vitamin A is fat soluble vitamin. So it's going to be better absorbed if you eat it with ranch anyway. So it's one of those things where, okay, let's find, instead of a greens powder, let's find some vegetable you
Yes.
like. Some. I don't even care if it's the same vegetable you eat every day, just some vegetable. So we can at least get those kind of like nutrients from it. And then we can work on branching out. We can work on practicing cooking other things. We can work on blending things into a smoothie. We can work on blending things into a sauce. We can work on, luckily, and there's a lot of really good now vegetable based alternatives out there,
Mhm.
which are good resources for people that potentially don't love vegetables necessarily, but there's other alternatives besides greens powder.
There was so much in there, so much good that you just said that I think, like, people, I hope, kind of made some connection dots. One of the big things being like, there is more to vegetables than the nutrients, like the vitamin A, or the vitamin A, I mean, which is obviously something we want, or the vitamin K, or whatever. There's even more beyond those B vitamins. There's the fiber that's so important for everything we've already talked about. There's also just like like the volume too, that when people are struggling
Mhm.
with losing weight and they're like, I'm hungry, like if you can get yourself to enjoy vegetables, they're typically a food that's very low in calorie and is going to add volume to your plate and keep you satiated. But I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning there. You said that you understand the point of greens powders and why people like tend to skew to them. I'm assuming, is that just the idea of like, well, I have a hard time
They
getting my
want
vegetables
to
in?
they're trying to get
Yeah.
vegetables in, and they're trying to compensate for not getting vegetables because they see the need for it, which is
Yeah.
great. But that's the kind of thing where I know they're trying, but if we could put the same vegetables or similar vegetables in a smoothie, and right now too, they have really great pre-prepped smoothie like in bags, which is really fantastic. And we use that some mornings just because all the fruits and vegetables are all cut up. All you have to do is throw it in the blender, throw some, especially if we're talking about gut health, pure aloe for gut health is fantastic. Throw some pure aloe in it, blend it up, you're good to go. And then it doesn't have the texture issues, or it doesn't have the necessarily flavor issues and those kind of things. So I understand why people are doing it, but at the same time, I don't think it's benefiting from as much for them as they probably want it to, so to speak.
Okay. All right. So greens, I mean, I think that was a point that a lot of people didn't necessarily think they were going to hear coming onto this. And I think there was so many good things in there of like, yeah. And I will say my hot take is, at the end of the day, we're freaking adults. Like, you got to learn to eat your vegetables, and you can sneak it into so many things, but like also I think about this all the time, but like we've just become such a society that, I'm not saying to force yourself to eat something you don't like, because I think that there's so many options out there where you can find something that you do, but like keep in mind that we have just created so much food that never existed, and like this wasn't a reality for people even
No.
100 years ago. Like, you just ate what was available, and that was things that grew from the earth, and that was animals, like protein, fruits, and vegetables. So like now you just have a plethora of options. So you get to kind of be like, I don't like that. But like we're adults and this is what our body was meant to have. So like figure out how to eat it. That's my take.
That's
Um,
why there's so many ways to cook it too and
yeah.
everything now. Like you don't have to like eat or I don't even I
Yeah.
mean, and for speaking on gut health, like one of the things I recommend doing is cooking your vegetables because then it denatures them a little bit. So then
Yeah.
they're not as hard on your gut. So you don't have as much gas bloating, those kind of things. But like
Yeah.
put in a sauce, cook it.
Yeah. For sure.
Hey, saute it up, fry it.
Yeah. Put in the air
Think about it.
fryer. Burn it to a
Put it in the
crisp
air
like
fryer.
me.
Yes,
So
air
good.
fryer is king when it comes.
All right. Anything else that when you're scrolling your Instagram, your TikTok, you're just like, God help me when it comes
Those
to gut
I
health?
don't know if they there's so many things that are labeled for gut health that I roll my eyes at, but there's not like any specific other one that I
Okay.
would say like is as widespread and rampant than the
Okay.
probiotics.
I think those
And
are
well, we can talk about colostrum for a minute because gosh, what's that new brand? I can't know the new brand that's coming out. It's colostrum. So again, for colostrum, I use colostrum with certain gut conditions that I work with. Do I recommend it for everybody? No. It is colostrum is exactly what it is. It is milk, typically from a cow. That is that first milk after the baby cow's born. Same thing with mammals of any sort. Usually, colostrum's that first milk. There is some times I recommend it again for a. It's usually the third step in a bind after a binding phase. Whenever you're going through clearing out some gut stuff going on. So there's certain times I recommend it, but do I recommend it for everybody? Nope.
makes sense. Yeah, I think it's one of those things again where yeah, it depends. And you gotta make sure you know what you are, yeah, putting in and not just buy something because it's the new trendy thing. And I have some things that I thought of ahead of time. So I'm gonna see if they end up on either of your lists. And if they don't, we can do like a rapid fire at the end of like what's your take. So all right. So as far as things that you think are kind of BS that become trendy, probiotics to a degree,
Mhm.
greens powders. All right. Now on the other side of the coin, what are some things that you've seen become popular and you're like, I'm so glad this is finally getting like the notoriety it deserves. I'm so glad people are hopping on this. What kind of comes to mind with that when it comes to gut health?
Gosh, it's so much more lifestyle stuff. The fiber being that one of them where a lot of the dietitian friends I follow on TikTok, fiber is incorporated into meals, like finding a source of fiber, whether that be whole grains, whether that be fruit, whether that be vegetable, having those. And I think too, just the whole movement of less diet culture. So fruits
Mm,
are now considered safe again.
yes.
Bread is
Oh my
considered safe
God. Thank
again.
God. They were so
I know.
dangerous. The
Like whole
banana.
grain B vitamins are in there. Like those kind of things are really fantastic when it comes to gut health, getting fiber and not just necessarily fiber. I mean, the RDA is I think 25 grams
Mhm.
for women, 35 grams for men. I like to see most of my clients eating between 30 and 50 grams of fiber. And I say real fiber, not Quest by fiber. Trust me, I love a Quest bar as much as the next person. It has 12 grams of fiber, but some people hit their fiber goals with using a Quest bar. Uh, and that usually is not the best, but real fiber, 30 to 50 grams, more specifically focusing on your soluble fiber, so your slimy fibers, is really beneficial. So your kiwi, your chia seed, those kind of things, anything that liquidizes in water is going to be your soluble fiber. And I think that's coming to fruition a little bit more, especially with the GLP-1 world coming to fruition a little bit more, which again, I think those have their place as well. But GLP-1 is activated by your fiber and your resistant starches. So I think that if you want a GLP-1 effect, get you some resistant starches, your green bananas, your cold rice, all those kind of things are really actually good for improving your GLP-1 production. Fun facts.
Team fiber. I did a recent content piece on like my doing a PR campaign for protein and like backing protein. And I think fiber does not get the love it deserves, or maybe it's starting to, but I got to do a one for fiber because you're very right. Like fiber is so underrated. Maybe it's getting there, but it has so much impact. And we actually like just a little side tangent with our EA clients. Like a lot of people focus on macros, right? What's your protein goal, your carb goal, your fat goal, which we do. But we almost have our like air quotes fourth macronutrient being fiber and like setting that goal with our clients because it is so imperative. And typically, if you're hitting your fiber goal, that means you're getting your food from high quality food because it's going to be real food, like Megan just listed, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables that have fiber. So I think it's finally getting a little bit more of the love that it deserves. What else? What else are you like? Love it. keep.
Water. And I think actually, okay, one trend I actually love, the Stanley Cup trend, which I'm sure the Hydro Flask and everything else did it before, but the Stanley Cup trend, because a lot of my clients check in with me with how many Stanley Cups they've drank, which is great because I'm like, okay, you're drinking water. It is shown that you drink more water out of a straw. Like, and water obviously is great for digestion. It brings water into the cells. If we're drinking more water, we're not dehydrated. So things move along a little bit easier. So I love water is another really great one. Drinking ideally 100 to 128 ounces of water a day. And then in the summer, ideally even more than that because of how hot climates are. But water is another really, really good one. I love, and I actually, the Stanley Cup trend, I think also has really helped that along too, to help people get in more water.
Chug your water. See, and I like the love this list because it's just like it's not supplements. It's
So
not.
boring.
It's just like life things that we should be doing. Anything else? Any other ones coming to mind?
So this is funny, and this is like a flashback. Have you ever watched Full House back in the day?
Best show ever. I've
There,
seen every episode
there
probably
is
like
a
5 times.
scene where they talked about chewing their food, had to chew their food 20 times. That cannot be more true. Chew your
I'm
food.
not good at
The
that.
digestion process starts in your mouth. Chew your food, slow down. And again, in a busy work environment, and this is a lot of our clients, in a busy work environment, people have 30 minutes to eat lunch. So if they have to go and grab something, if they have to run to the break room, do something, grab it, come back, they don't have time to breathe for a second and eat food carefully and chew it completely before they eat. And that's another thing where, and then you're eating in a stressed out state. So I mean, just going into this for a minute, because stress is another huge thing, that decreasing stress is massive because our body, when we're in a stressed out state, main systems shut down when we're stressed out. And again, this was back for a preventative measure back in the way days when we were living with the animals and everything. It was big because if we were running from a bear, you would not want to have to stop to poop because you would
Right.
die. So same, it doesn't, obviously our bodies don't know if we're running from a bear, if we just have a stressful project at work. So making sure we take the time to de-stress, have a moment to eat, chew our food completely is another huge thing going into meals that we can do to help our digestion.
I am also glad you brought up the de-stress and lower stress part in that because I think that that's kind of been talked about and becoming more talked about on social media when it comes to gut health too. It's just like, yeah, be less stressed. Like we have been, I think our generation has been a very high achieving society for the last like 20 or so years. I just feel like our age demographic, and people are starting to realize like the negative impacts that that has beyond just like the mental health capacity. Like there is the physiological, like you just said, this is what happens. And I have talked to so many people where I'm like, if we can just, and this is to myself as well, lower stress, you're probably going to see less constipation. You're going to see, yeah, better gut health because of everything you just said. So those are, I think, are good. Some four good ones. Fiber being higher, more water, chewing your food is not underrated or not overrated, I should say. And limiting your stress is not overrated. So
Oh, and then
yeah,
honorable mention,
honorable
a
mention.
squatty potty.
Oh,
Squatty potty. That is one thing I encourage my clients to get as well, is a squatty potty will change the way you poop in the best way possible. That's an honorable mention as well.
my actually somebody I knew well in college had one and it was yeah, it was for that reason and it did help. It was quite a yeah. And what is the reason is just that's more of like the like our
Elevation.
yeah,
Mhm.
and it's
Of
kind of
your
like how
legs.
we are meant to like as in
Poop.
from like our
Yep.
ancestral ways. Yeah. Okay. So I have a few that you didn't end up mentioning in either category that come to mind when I think of things I've seen, trendy things around gut health. So I want to do a little, we'll end with a little rapid fire game. Now, it doesn't have to be like if you have something you want to say, I think of providing maybe a little bit of why or context would be helpful. So it doesn't have to actually be rapid fire, but let's go through a couple things that I've seen be trendy when it comes to gut health and get your take on, is it BS? Or do you stand behind it and think it's worth that effort or worth the buy or whatever? Okay, first thing being, let's do like I think when it comes to caffeine, specifically coffee on an empty stomach when it comes to gut health and avoiding that. BS or do you back it?
I on an empty stomach, I don't love it because of the, like we just talked about, the stress. It does work as a coffee as a stimulant. So it also works as a natural laxative. So that is one thing I also have to consider with clients, especially when they're trying to wean off caffeine. we have to find other ways to excrete if we're having issues with that. It might take us a little bit to get our bowels more normal. So I don't live it on an empty stomach because of the stress, which then throws off everything else. I'm fine with it occasionally, but also know if we're very dependent on it, because I do have some clients like this who are very dependent on it to use the restroom, we probably need to work on some other things as well.
Okay. Is there anything about like the like acidity on, I've kind of heard that. I feel like, do you have any issue with that?
Yes and no. On the empty stomach, it's more caffeine related than anything else. I'm not super worried about the acidity of it, especially because every brew is so different. Where obviously a dark brew is gonna be a little bit different
Yeah.
than a light brew versus when you start mixing it with creamer and sugar and milk,
Right.
and then it's gonna affect things a little bit differently. I'm not super concerned about it across the board. It doesn't have that bit of impact. It's more for me of the laxative effect of
Mm,
coffee that I get more
okay.
concerned about.
Okay. So ideally, you back the idea of like, let's eat some food before we have
Let's
our
eat
coffee.
some food before coffee.
All
I'm
right.
fine with coffee in moderation, but if we're starting to become dependent on it to use the restroom, we might need to regroup.
Okay. So coffee, not bad. I also agree with that. But hot girls eat breakfast before coffee is what we're gathering.
Correct.
Got it. All right. Uh, take on dairy. And I've seen a lot of like, I'm cutting out dairy for my gut health. BS, or do you back it?
I'm 50-50 on it. If you're reactive to it, cut it out. That's why I'm filled with anything. Whether if you're allergic to something, don't eat it. Like on that kind of regard. Otherwise, too, though, I do obviously we want to kind of find out what else is going on there. If we're cutting it out for a specific reason, and if it helps cutting out, but also let's figure out why we can't have dairy, because some people can't have dairy. I am lactose intolerant. Dairy gives me a hard time. Besides like broken down dairy, aka like yogurt and those kind of things that have those lovely probiotics already in them and help you break things down. But like though that kind of stuff it has its merit that hey, if it is better for you, if you react to it, don't eat it. If you don't react to it, have at it.
I think is a perfect example of these things that like have merit for some people, and then people jump on and it becomes this mass like generalized thing that everybody jumps on. I think it's like just a perfect example of what I was trying to get out of this podcast. It's like, yeah, dairy. Like yeah, for some people it doesn't work, but then just because now everybody's posting dairy's bad for you, it's like everybody's jumping on it. It's like, no, for some people it can be an awesome protein source. It can be an awesome probiotic source, like we talked about with your yogurt. So I love that context of it just depends. Probably going to be similar, but gluten-free, going gluten-free for gut health. This has become very trendy in the last 10 to 15 years. BS or do you back?
So again, it's reactive. My problem with gluten-free, if you are not celiac, obviously you have to be gluten-free if you have celiac disease. That is, you actually have a disease for it. I'm fine. And some of my clients, again, they react with gluten. So guess what? We cut out gluten. So, and they feel better, which is great. My problem with gluten-free is that, and again, I'm happy for those people that have something like celiac disease and can't have gluten for certain reasons, how expansive now the gluten-free market has gotten. It is obviously you can get gluten-free pretty much anything now, and it tastes pretty decent compared to what it even was 10 years ago. But a lot of those things have a lot of extra additives in them. So if we're gluten-free and now we're say, what are we doing? We're doing more potatoes, maybe some rice, some oats, those kind of things. We're getting our carb sources in that way, some fruits, vegetables, great. But I don't think just switching to gluten-free items, whether it be pizza, bread, pastas, cookies, whatever it is, I don't think that will benefit people unless they actually have a disease or an intolerance to gluten.
Agree. Good. I like that answer. Okay, last one on my list, and then if there's any others that you maybe thought of we were talking about, but this has been a trend I feel like I just never could get behind it because it's disgusting. But the apple cider vinegar shots in the morning. Do you back it or is it BS for gut health?
Okay, this is hot. I back it for not necessarily for gut health, for blood sugar regulation. I do back it.
Okay.
I do like it for blood sugar regulation. I've worked with several clients that they do an ounce of apple cider vinegar in the morning and it's helped lower their blood sugar. So not necessarily for gut health, but for blood sugar regulation, which does have a correlation with insulin and everything, for it, it all is intertwined. But I do like it for overall blood sugar regulation. It's not necessarily for gut health though.
You've seen it as like a gut health. You've seen people emphasize it in that way, right?
I've seen the gummies, and
Yeah.
that's another hot take. I hate anything in gummy form. I think it's a waste of money.
why do like what is the what is the method? Why are people saying that apple cider vinegar first thing in the morning with lemon juice is good for gut health on an empty stomach? Like what's the
I honestly have no idea. I know for sure it might have something to do with obviously when you have lower blood sugar numbers, you lose waist circumference typically because people who are typically more insulin resistant carry more fat around their mid circumference. So it could be that. I don't know why they say in gut health, but it does raise some or lower some cholesterol and it does affect fast or blood sugar levels.
It's probably because one girl with a six pack did it one time and then posted, and then now everybody does it. So, okay, people, you heard it here first. If you don't, probably not first, but if you don't, if you think it's freaking disgusting to swallow a shot of apple cider vinegar in the morning for your gut health, don't do it. Not worth it. All right, that's really the only. I was trying to think when we were talking, like if there are any. I'm trying to think
I
of
have
any.
another one actually I
You?
just
All right,
thought
what is
of.
it? What is it?
Coach Nicole's gonna kill me. Coffee
The
and
prebiotic sodas.
that is one
I
of
mean,
also
I'm guessing that just falls kind of into the same thing we talked about with probiotics.
it's 12 grams of liquid fiber. It
Yeah.
can mess and with carbonation on top of it, it can mess some people up with the bloating issues. So that's one of those things where I'm like, do it if you tolerate it, but it's also one of the first things I cut if people say that they're having digestive issues.
So I don't have like Nicole is because she's talking about Coach Nicole is addicted to Olippops. I am addicted to just like club soda, just carbonated water in general. Like, is that? But I literally thought about that recently. I truly drink at least a gallon a day of carbonated water,
Oh my gosh.
at least.
Not just because of again, if you are not experiencing any bloating distension, you're fine to drink it. It's not that it's good
I
for
can't
you.
say I don't after I chug a
Well,
bottle.
even chewing gum's another notorious one for people where that's what's another thing I recommend decreasing if they're having bloating issues, like chewing gum's another one. But if you're having issues and it's bothering you, that's the key. If it's bothering you
Yeah.
enough to limit it, that would be one thing I would probably recommend. Carbonated beverage, obviously, if we're putting air into our system, their air has to go somewhere. Not
Yeah.
one
I'm not
thing.
sure when this addiction started or how it started, but it's truly become an addiction. Like it's bad, but maybe I'll try to work on that. Okay. Well, I think that rounds it out. This is good because I think there are some surprising ones for people on here of like you're wasting your money, you're maybe making things worse. And it's just a good reminder overall that like the supplement industry, it can be helpful, but it's so nuanced and it just don't feel pressured also by whatever's popular online. Like it's figuring out what works for you. Anything else you want to add?
No, I
Anything else?
think that's
Cool.
good. I
All
think
right.
that's solid.
Awesome. I think this wraps up a really solid episode. So thanks guys for listening and we will see you next week. Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Megan.